Now, by show of hands, who in this audience uses social media in their business? Okay, almost all of you, great. Now, what I'm gonna speak to you about over the next 30 minutes or so is how to humanize your brand, especially how to humanize your brand in this era that we're entering of privacy. So you heard Mark Zuckerberg at Facebook F8 over the last couple days talk about increased privacy and that the future of social media and the future of Facebook is going more to this privatized world where relationships matter, where one-on-one communication is at the forefront. And what I'm gonna speak to you about that's gonna really help you stand out going forward is how to humanize your brand. I think we can all agree that today what social media has become is very much a pitch fest, correct? Like, yeah, I see some heads nodding. And it's okay, we're all friends here. What social media feels like from a brand's standpoint is that it's become about what? Selling. And I get it, we're all in business for a reason. That's to do what? It's to sell, it's to make money. But how you get your buyers to actually engage with you and get them to buy is the challenge that most brands face. So I'm gonna share with you how to humanize your brand and then strategies on how you can sell less and engage more, how you can take what it is that you do and make yourself on social media at least seem to be much more personable than what you are today. Now, before I do that, I want to talk about what's new in the world of social media. First of all, the internet is noisy. I think we can all agree. Does anyone in this room not have a Facebook account? 2 people, 3? Are you on Instagram? So you have a Facebook account. Who else? Raise their hand. Are you on Instagram? You're on Facebook. Are you on Instagram? You're on Facebook. Like everyone here in this room, I would argue, probably has some sort of presence on social media. And guess what? All of that noise that's happening creates what I like to refer to as this noisy digital ocean. So you have corporate brands, and then you have personal brands, and when you combine all this friction, all this noise that's being generated by both the corporate side and then the personalities and the influencers, it's really hard to stand out. So with that being said, Snapchat, you have over 500,000 snaps, known as photos, being shared per minute. Pretty fascinating. You have over 120 professionals joining LinkedIn every single minute. You have on YouTube over 4 million videos being viewed per minute. So you see this trend here, then you see almost 500,000 tweets are being sent on Twitter per minute. So where I'm going with this again is that because the internet is noisy, your objective, quite frankly, isn't how do I sell more stuff through social media? Quite frankly, it's how do I stay relevant? How do I even break through this noise? Because I'll tell you this, you're only as good as your last post. You're only as good as your last tweet. So if you're putting out content and you're not getting engagement, there's something that you're not doing right. And that's something, whatever it is, you first need to analyze what does our audience want to see from us? What do they want to hear? And if we're not seeing the engagement that we're hoping for and it's not driving a return, then what can we do better? Now, this is the internet in a minute right here. Once again, it validates some of the stats I just shared with you. It's noisy. And it's not just social media that we're talking about here, but you take into account people are streaming content on Netflix, people are swiping on Tinder to find dates, they're going on Twitch, they're going on TikTok. Like if you really want to know where the world is headed, through Generation Z especially, take a look at platforms like Twitch and like TikTok. Because these are platforms that very soon we'll be speaking about in the same breath that we refer to Facebook and we refer to Instagram and Twitter and so forth for marketing. So once again, you have these new platforms that are entering the market now, which is creating more noise. Recently, I'm not sure who read this news, but Facebook said that they are going to pilot taking likes away from Instagram, which quite frankly, I think is a bold move, and I think it's a great move. Because what happens when you remove likes, public-facing likes, from the ecosystem? Now it forces every single brand and every single creator to do what? To create better content, to create better visuals. Because right now, the way subconsciously we are ranking in our own minds when we see content, it's based primarily on likes. So if you strip that component away, now it puts everyone on a level playing field. Now it's really important that you understand the algorithms. I think we can all agree, organic reach on Facebook is dead. It really is. And I'm going to prove that here in just a moment. By a show of hands, who woke up this morning and the first thing that you did was you grabbed your phone and you went to Facebook to see what your favorite brand of all time posted? Not a single one of you. Take a look around. Not one person. Why is that? Does anyone here in this room enjoy being advertised to? No? Does anyone here with excitement look forward to seeing a sponsored post in their newsfeed? I know I don't. I was with a client last night and they were showing me their ads that they're running. I'm like, wow, like no wonder you're not getting the conversions that you're hoping for, because your ad copy looks and sounds and feels like an ad. It doesn't feel like it's content that a consumer would naturally enjoy sharing out with their friends. Now, the reality is this is your audience on Facebook. Less than 1% of page fans are actively engaging or even seeing your content. You know, that's the world that we're living in today. So again, your objective isn't necessarily in almost the year 2020, how do I get more people to buy from me? It really should start with how do I build more relationships and scale those relationships to turn those people that are consuming with my brand into loyal brand advocates. Now, let's face it, you have new faces that you're competing with. And I'm going to share some of those faces with you here in a moment. Corporate brands no longer rule marketing when it comes to social media. They really don't. It's people-driven. I think we can all agree in this room that we go on social media to do what? To engage with people, not brands, not logos, unless we have a problem with those brands. We go on social media to consume content from our friends. We don't intentionally go on social media to consume content from brands. And I've asked this question over the years doing presentations like this, like, tell me about some of the brands that you follow, and I hear everything from like James Corden to Stephen Colbert. It's always people and people and people. And anytime I ever hear of a consumer brand mentioned, they're always doing what? They're mentioning people, which is why you see brands like Hertz that I personally work with as a brand ambassador. You see brands that DJ Khaled works with. You see all these other iconic brands now making people the faces of their brand and not their logos, and that's really where the world is headed in terms of marketing altogether. We will get to a point where the brand accounts on social media for Walmart are faces. We will get to a point where the face of Coca-Cola on Facebook, you will be able to interact and engage with that individual or with those individuals. It's gonna have to be, because once again, as consumers, people trust people, not brands, not logos, because the perception is that those brands or those logos are always trying to do what? They're trying to sell to us. So I'm gonna play a very brief snippet here of DJ Khaled for you. I'm gonna narrate this for a moment. DJ Khaled is one of the most watched people on social media today because he does this. Literally wakes up every morning, shares with you,
Director calls for big applause. We
beginning,
go berserk, all right?
middle, and end of his day, what he's doing.
That son find me.
DJ Khaled, ladies and gentlemen, isn't the most articulate person. He's not the best looking person. He's not the best dressed person out there, but guess what? He's engaging, right? I think we all agree. There's a reason why more people are watching DJ Khaled than they're watching Walmart on social media. There's a reason why when the Shiggy Challenge dropped, okay, how many of you saw the Shiggy Challenge when it came out last year, that video that I played at the very beginning? The reason why I played that is because that song became the song of the summer, okay? Shiggy, who's a comedian here, right here in New York, creates this video on Instagram doing the Shiggy Challenge. That video gets over 7 million views. The actual music video, In My Feelings song, has received to date almost 200 million views on YouTube, which is insane, all because this moment caught on. And these are just views and impressions within 2 accounts. When you take into account that you had celebrities like Will Smith doing the Shiggy Challenge, Sierra, Russell Wilson, like everyday normal people like us doing this, it became what? A movement. And that's what people want to feel like they're a part of. They want to feel like they're a part of a movement. So if your brand can either participate in existing movements, or if your brand can start your own, I'll give you an example. Vans recently had the Vans Flip Challenge. You're always seeing these brands that come up, somehow these hokey challenges, and it catches on for a very brief moment. And going back to DJ Khaled, what he does isn't rocket science, he's storytelling. He's just taking you through a progression of what he does, and he also sells to you. You know, DJ Khaled works with brands like Silk. He's essentially teaching us how to live healthier lives. DJ Khaled is teaching us how to nourish our skin. You know, he works with brands like I think it's Palmer's Cocoa Butter. He teaches us even how to do our taxes, how to be fiscally responsible. And guess what? He teaches us what to drink after we do our taxes with partnerships with Ciroc. But to me, what was really shocking, and I've been following DJ Khaled now for the last 4 or 5 years since Snapchat kind of exploded and came out, because I've just been fascinated. I'm originally from Miami, Florida. So I have Miami in the house right here? Yes, couple of y'all? All right, 305. Man, I like that. So I've been following DJ Khaled for a minute. For those of you that are in Miami, he's had presence on the radio for years. So he's not like new by any means. He's been around. I was fascinated when right around the end of 2015 all of a sudden he becomes this viral sensation on the internet, and people are speaking about him on Twitter, on Facebook, on YouTube, everywhere, because he started storytelling on Snapchat about him getting lost at sea on a jet ski. Like, as hokey as that sounds. And then all of a sudden, he's giving people this new flavor, this new sound that they're not used to consuming from celebrities or from people. And that is where I really think storytelling is where any brand should really be looking at where the current is headed. I say this to CEOs all the time. Your brand should be more like DJ Khaled and less like a brand. And they think I'm absolutely batshit crazy. But with that being said, the numbers don't lie. Now, granted, not every brand out there has access to celebrities. But within your own organizations, you have your own celebrities, and they're all of you. They're people. You all are influencers for your own companies. I started social media for a company called Winn-Dixie in Florida many years ago. And as a social media manager for Winn-Dixie, which is a supermarket chain, I created my own persona within the company called Winn-Dixie Carlos. And I was using Winn-Dixie Carlos on Twitter, on Facebook, to do what? To engage with bloggers, to engage with customers. All of you are capable of doing this, whether you work in social media for your brand or not. You look here at the numbers, DJ Khaled actually helped Weight Watchers stock increase by 8% on one day when they announced him to be an ambassador for them. That's pretty fascinating if you ask me. That's that halo effect. Now, how do you keep up with the change? How do you keep up with the algorithm? How do you keep up with influencers? Because again, like your competition, I really want you to understand this for a moment. Your competition is not the one or two other brands that are direct competitors of yours. They're not. Your competition is every single person on the internet today that's creating content. Your objective and your mission is to get people to buy from you, and the way that you're gonna get them to do that is by building loyalty and trust with them, and that happens one by one. There's no Facebook ad that you can run. There's no one thing that you can do to all of a sudden have all these people trust and love your brand. It takes time, it takes money to create content as well. So in order to keep up, you first need to slow down and analyze what is the value of a tweet, what's the value of a Facebook post, what are any of these channels even doing for your brand? I think about 7 or 8 years ago, as Facebook started to catch on more with brands, as Instagram first came out, and then as Pinterest and eventually Snapchat came to the light, a lot of brands started to think, all right, the secret to success or the keys to success in social media marketing is we have to be everywhere. Because if we're everywhere, now all these people can find us, and guess what happens? You can't be everywhere and be great. So that's where we start having shitty content come in. Because you have brands that are just repurposing what they do on Facebook, they're just putting it over on Instagram. It doesn't look right because it's not sized right. Or they're taking their Instagram content and they're sharing it over on their Facebook page, and it has all these hashtags, and it has like the ... and the formats are all messed up. Or they're just sharing content from one platform to another, and it doesn't feel like a native experience for the people on that platform. So what you're essentially saying to your customers that might not necessarily follow you on Facebook, but they follow you on Twitter is, hey, guess what? We are serving you our leftovers, our digital leftovers from another platform. And that's why you're seeing lower engagements. So you look at a brand like Lush, they actually recently decided to take the stance of they were gonna get off of Twitter. And they sent out this tweet. They were pretty transparent with their audience. They said, due to algorithms, it's hard to get in front of our audience. We're jumping off of Twitter. So my first recommendation is audit your channels. If they're not driving any value to your company, then you shouldn't be on there. It's just that simple. Focus on the 1 or 2 channels where you can be great. Focus on the 1 or 2 channels where your audience lives. Focus on the 1 or 2 channels where you can get the biggest lift, the biggest ROI. The next is tap into own data. So for those of you that work primarily day-to-day in social media marketing, chances are at your company, You have someone that's in charge of your loyalty program. You have someone that's in charge of your email marketing efforts. Align with that person so you can tap into the data that they have access to, which is your own data versus renting data from Facebook or from any one of these social networks. And then what you do is you start running your Facebook ad campaigns targeting own data. The next is don't post daily, only post when you have quality content to share. I think there's this misconception by marketers, which I know for a fact that there is, that they think that if you post every day, or if you post 2 to 3 times a day, that you're gonna somehow trick the algorithm into serving your content to more people, and it doesn't work like that. The lifeline of a social media post, truthfully, is less than an hour. Again, you're only as good as your last post. So think of any time you post content on social media, it's like a wave. When you post, it's like a ripple initially that you're making in the ocean, this giant digital ocean. As people engage with that content, then the wave gets momentum and it gets higher. The more engagement that you get within a period of time, the higher that wave will become, meaning the more impact it'll make. And then eventually that wave's gonna come crashing down. So my recommendation to you is, as soon as you have a post go live and people start to engage with it, start engaging within those posts. Start commenting back, start liking the comments that you're getting. Because that's really, if you want to know how to hack the algorithm on any one of these platforms. The algorithm is a computer at the end of the day. It's a computerized system. It's not an actual real person. So what the algorithm is thinking is, if a post is getting engagement, naturally, that post must be important. And a lot of people seem to think that you have to have a significant number of followers. You really don't. You just need to have a significant number of people engaging with your content at any given time. So again, going back to this kind of debate of should I post daily, or should I post multiple times, or should I post once a week? My recommendation to you is only post when it feels right and you actually have good content to share. And I'll get to questions at the very end. The next is conversations or content as well. My favorite social network, if you want to know what it is Twitter. And the reason why I enjoy Twitter is because you can just jump into a conversation and start speaking to people without having to create visual images, without having to create video content. You can just identify who's speaking about your company, your competition, or your industry, and you can just start having conversations openly. That's a form of marketing. I call it conversational marketing. But it works because it says what? That you have a presence, that you're active, that you're listening, that you're paying attention, that you care. So I recommend that you jump more into conversations and then know the algorithms. So original content that keeps users on the platform, that's the play. And what I mean by original content is content that you post on Facebook that keeps people engaging within Facebook instead of driving them away. That's gonna be what helps your content get prioritized by the algorithm. A lot of brands make this mistake. They post links to their YouTube videos on their Facebook page. They post links to their website on their Facebook page. And then they wonder, why am I getting such low engagement? Well, the reason why is because you're trying to grow and build your business on the back of another business. I used to work for LinkedIn, running social media for one of their business units. So I know from working at a social network that these social networks at the end of the day are digital advertising platforms. They make their money by selling ads, by tapping into the data that they have access to. So once you know how the game works, now you're empowered. Now you can either play by the house rules, which is what I'm telling you how the house rules work, or you can continue doing what you've been doing, and you're never gonna beat the house. That's just a fact. So the house rules are just that. Know how the algorithms work and give the platforms what they're looking for. So this grid that you see right here, this is a really important slide, is how Facebook prioritizes content. You have native video. So Facebook, I'm telling you right now, is trying to take market share away from YouTube. In order to take market share away from YouTube, they have to have more people consuming content every single second of the day on their platform. Just like you go to YouTube to type in how to tie your shoes or how to use social media marketing, Facebook is headed in that direction. So native video. I recommend that you do an assessment and audit of your website to see what videos currently live on your website, and do an assessment and audit of your own YouTube channel. And start uploading content natively over to Facebook if you haven't done so already. Then you have photos, live video, and then last are links. So give Facebook Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, whatever social network that you're using, more native content that keeps users on the platform. And what I mean about content that keeps users on the platform is just that. If you're posting a video, let's say that video is a minute long, that's keeping someone on Facebook for a minute, and they're probably going to be inclined to stay on Facebook after that and go to another page, which by doing that, Facebook is now able to serve more ads to that consumer, to that end user. Now, what you want to do and this is what I like to refer to as a ninja growth hack, this is to really trick the algorithm on any one of these platforms, is go take a look at your old posts. Go see top performing content over the last 6 months on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook. Chances are many of you here use some sort of social media management tool or platform, whether it's Sprout Social or Sprinkler or Spreadfast, whomever. Use these tools to identify what were your top performing posts in the last 6 months. And then go back to each one of those posts, and you can do this like once a week. So you don't want to flood the market by doing this. But use this as a hack. Go once a week to one of those top performing posts. I call them the golden oldies. And go comment back on the people that engaged with you within that thread. Chances are you're going to go back and you're going to look at your post and you're going to see that you might have had 20 people that commented and you only engaged with like 3 out of the 20. So then go back and engage with the other 17. What you also want to do is you want to like every single one of the comments that came through and you want to respond to them. And then what you want to do is you want to like your own comment. So if it's a tweet, you go back, you go to those tweets, you like the person that replied back, you respond to them, and then you like your own tweet. You do the same thing on Instagram, you do the same thing on Facebook. By doing this, now the algorithm on these platforms is thinking that your post has more engagement. And because they're thinking that post has more engagement, now they're thinking that post is relevant once again. So they're going to give it an organic kind of boost in the feed. So you need to stop selling and you need to start engaging. How do you do that? Now, the next couple of posts, for me, are just mind-blowing as a marketer. I've been working in this industry now for over a decade. I've worked for some top brands, and when I see that a brandless egg gets over 53 million likes on a single post, to me, that was a holy shit moment. And it still is. Because this right here, quite frankly, shows that people today really could care less about even good content, and it's more about what I said before, the movement. People are people, right? So when they see that their friends are talking about something, they want to participate in that. You look at another example, Firefest. For those of you that are familiar with this, or for those of you that are not familiar with it, this was one of the greatest fails in the last couple of years of a concert that never happened, or a festival that never happened, but it originated, and this event generated millions of dollars simply by influencers posting an orange tile on their Instagram account. So people are trusting people to the extent that they're willing to take out their credit card and swipe and buy products that don't even exist. That should say something to you. Now, as a brand or as a marketer, you first need to tell more stories. So it's less about the greatness of your brand being your products and actually what goes into making your company great. Everyone in this room can educate, every single person. And I often say the reason why people go on social media is because they're either looking to be educated or entertained. Most brands are not entertaining brands at all. But every single person can educate. Everyone can educate on what they do, what they sell. Every single person can do that. So tell more stories about what it is that you do. Show more through mediums like Instagram stories, Facebook stories. Let me tell you something. I love Facebook stories. And if you're not using this as a brand page, you're really missing out on a big land grab opportunity right now. Because let's face it, everything is moving on the news feed. When you look at your apps, everything's moving up to stories, at the very top. So when you look at the user interface right now of Instagram, what's the first thing you see? Stories. We look at the interface for Facebook, same thing. So tell more stories. And the great thing about stories is that your content doesn't have to be polished. You can literally grab your phone and you can do employee takeovers every single day, different employee at your organization, talking about what they're doing, talking about, if you do want to talk about latest sale, latest campaign, actually narrate that. Have your customers tell that story also for you. So be the talk of your industry and have your employees really be the faces of your brands. That's ultimately where you want to get your social media marketing presence to a point where one of two things are happening. One, people, your customers, are organically speaking about you, and every single time that they mention you, you're doing what? You're retweeting, you're sharing, you're taking that user-generated content, and you're amplifying that even more. And then two, your employees are ultimately going to become the faces of your brand. Now, examples of this, I'm gonna go through this over the next few slides, is you look at a brand like Warby Parker. Warby Parker's done a really good job, especially through Snapchat, taking their employees and making their employees storytellers for the brand. And then what do? They go out and they tweet, and they also put on Facebook any single time one of their employees, as you see here, is doing a takeover of their Snapchat account. Now, the good news, but also bad news, is that employees are already speaking about you, most likely. So I want you to go through this exercise, whether now or you get back to your offices, and your job's probably gonna drop in some cases. If you go on Instagram and you type in hashtag Walmart employees, you have over 3,000 posts in the feed. Guess what? HR can't mitigate this. You can't step in and tell your employees, unless you have like a really stringent employee handbook, you can't tell your employees, hey, you can't post about us and mention us in your posts. You really can't. So with that being said, you take a brand like Walmart, they have over 3,000 posts. Do this exercise where you go on Instagram and you look at hashtags and you run a search for the name of your company and then the word employees afterward, or employee. Some of you might be really shocked. Now, you look at a brand like Starbucks. Again, very similar. Employees organically are creating content about their brand. And the reason why I put this into context and share with all of you is so you realize the greatest storytellers that you have access to aren't influencers that you're gonna cut a check to represent you one time. They're the people that you're already cutting checks to on a bi-weekly or monthly basis, and those are your employees. Now, what you wanna do is create short stories, once again, that educate or entertain. And don't forget, the community is king. So I know you'll hear a lot of marketers, and probably even at this conference, constantly say that content is king, but guess what? If you don't have a community that's consuming this content, all you're doing is making noise. And that's not what you should be doing. What you should be doing is build more relationships, which is that community. Now, what you wanna do at all times is, first of all, identify who's speaking about your brand. So again, tap into these tools like Sprout Social and Sprinkler, and whoever you're using for your social media management. Tap into these tools to audit who's speaking about your brand and engage them regularly. Literally create lists with, even if it's 10 people. But by being able to identify those 10 people, now you can see what they're speaking about when they're not speaking about you. There might even be some opportunities. For example, like my agency, Gill Media, we work with Zales and K Jewelers doing their community management. So when we're identifying people are talking about getting engaged, or they're in love, or they're dating, like those are key words that my team is able to swoop in on and engage with people just so the brands are top of mind for them. Say thank you a lot. Anyone that mentions your brand. It's shocking when you go just run a search on Twitter. For your own company, you can do this, or you can do this for your competition, and you type in @ with the handle of that company, or you just type in the company name, and you see that that company's not swooping in and acknowledging the people that are mentioning them. That's a big swing and a miss, and it's a fail. Every single person that mentions your brand, every single one of them, you should be thanking them, and you should be interacting with them as well. Then reward your advocates by offering products, services, or experiences to them. So I'll give you an example. And this is how you can go from thinking like a marketer to thinking more like a customer. I'll just go through this example here. Cole Haan. I'm a big Cole Haan fan. And if you go to Instagram right now and you run a search for hashtag I wear Cole Haan, what do you see? You see over 400 posts by what I would assume are customers of Cole Haan. Not one of these posts have ever been engaged on by Cole Haan. That's a miss, a big miss. Now, I went through this exercise where I started going through every single one of these posts to see, well, has Cole Haan ever engaged with any one of these customers? I see that there's this influencer right here who's verified on Instagram. He wasn't compensated. This doesn't have hashtag spawn or hashtag ad in it. Just a regular person that wears Cole Haan. Has 68,000 followers and he's verified. There are people right now, at this very moment, that are speaking about your brand or your competition or your industry. And unless you're going through these exercises and you're auditing who's truly speaking about you, you will have missed opportunities come and go all the time. Now, the biggest competitive advantage as we look to wrap up that social media offers is the ability to listen. Most brands, whether corporate or personal brands, they're all doing the same thing on social media. They're posting. They're not doing a good enough job listening. So I recommend when you leave this conference and you evaluate the ROI of social media, you really evaluate, are we doing a good job listening about what's being said about us, our competition, and our industry? So what I recommend is that you start engaging with not just your customers, but start engaging with customers of your competitors. I call this being a digital savage, because guess what? If you are not going to pay attention to what's being said about your competition's customers and followers, most likely your competition is paying attention to what's being said about your brand. Social media, my friends, is the digital wild, wild west. There's no rules. There's no governing body that says that you can't engage if you're Walmart with Target's unhappy customers. There's no governing body that says that if you're Champ Sports, you can't see who's speaking about Foot Locker and engage with them, right? You see how that works? So by listening on social media what's being said, now you have a competitive advantage. Reading reviews. You can go right now to your competition's Facebook page and you can read real reviews that are being left. Any bad reviews, I would swoop in, or I would send a direct message through Messenger to those individuals that are having bad experiences with that brand. Because how are you going to be able to show the ROI internally to your executives and to your leadership of social media? You can't scale community. It's one by one, building your community, being able to leverage people that are having bad experiences with your customers and say, hey, look, this is what happened. We went on our competitor's page. We saw these people that left 1 and 2 star reviews. This person said this brand sucks and they'll never shop from them again. We were able to swoop in and convert this person into being a customer, or at least get them on the path to being customers. And I'll give you an example that does this beautifully, and that's Wendy's. Wendy's is my favorite brand on social media, and the reason why is because they're savage as fuck. They really are. When IHOP decided to rebrand from IHOP to IHOB, so they went from being International House of Pancakes to International House of Burgers, what did Wendy's do? They swooped in on Twitter, and they said, can't wait to try a burger from the place that decided pancakes were too hard. Ouch. Like, they completely, newsjacked their competitor, in this case, IHOP, that was now selling burgers. They newsjacked their competitor's moment. Guess what? You can all do that. Now, as we wrap up here, I just want to preface by saying that the future of social media, what it really is not private, it's one-to-one. It's all about humanization of content and the humanization of your brand. But keep in mind, you cannot build a mansion on rented land. And what I mean by this statement here is that all of us are operating on rented territory. Facebook could go away tomorrow. Instagram could crash. The FTC could shut down all of social media, and then what are you left with? I'm going through this process right now where I'm writing a book, and I've recently discovered, by working with my publisher, that all the content that we put out on social media, we don't own any of it. We have no rights to it, because the moment you hit that send button, it is the property of that social network. But keep in mind, as you're prioritizing every single piece of content that you're putting out there into the social media universe, if that content is not netting a return, even from people engaging with you, then you really need to assess what's the value of it. Now, before I jump off stage, I want to encourage you to download this all-new ebook. It's called The Survival Guide to Social Media in 2019. You can get it by sending a text message. You can text Carlos to 66866. Highly recommend that you jump on it. It has 5 different sections. Some of it is what I've talked about here today, but others go much more into detail with strategy and whatnot. So with that being said, I want to thank all of you for sitting in here. Hopefully this presentation brought a tremendous amount of value to each and every one of you. And if you have any questions, I will be outside of this hall after this talk. So thank you so much.